All right. Good morning, everybody. So I'm just going to assume that y'all can hear me. If you can't, then go ahead and let me know there in the comments there. To ask a question, you can just see on the right hand side of your screen. If you're on your desktop, just write your questions in there, and we'll get them answered. Wanted to mention that I'm only going to be answering questions that are asked during the office hours. This is just so that people who are asking them live can see them get answered. I saw there was a lot of questions that were asked, like Alfred A. Like if you're on here, go ahead and repost your question. Richard W. Go ahead and repost your question. If you're on here, odds are I may come back to it because it looks like there's only one question that's been posted. But I'll start with David D. So there's only been one question that's been posted. So after that one, I may go work my way down if there aren't any more posted after David D's. Also, if you ask a question that can be easily answered by a course on the website or a specific video, I'm just going to send you to that video. It's not that I don't want to answer your question. It's just that, a video or something on the website is probably going to be better. I can only do so much from my office here. And also it allows me to answer as many questions as possible rather than having to break down 10 minutes, like how to fix your slice. That would be a question that would be included in that. How to fix your slice. I'm going to send you to our Never Slice Again section. It's a whole course that teaches you how to fix your slice. So let's go ahead and get started here. One last thing I want to mention is I am live from my home. I do have a dog, and we do get packages delivered to the house sometimes, and she may bark and things like that. So if I have to disappear, you hear the dog barking or something like that, I'll be right back as soon as I can. All right. So David D said, "What is a good visual clue to help setting up correct distance from ball, regardless of club use?" So the distance you're going to be away from the ball is going to change based on the club, because the clubs are different lengths, right? So basically, the easiest way to think about it is kind of the way that you set up with your body is going to be the same pretty much with all clubs, other than your really, really long clubs. So that'd be like your driver, maybe your 3-wood. So the easiest way to think about it is so if I have a wedge here, I have a driver in here, but I have a 3-wood in here that I think I can show you. So the easiest way to think about it is just kind of get a little bit of flex in your knees, and then you bend over at the waist here and just kind of let your arms hang straight down. And your arms should be about 6 inches or so, something like that, away from your legs. And that's pretty much with every club, other than your longest clubs, that's pretty much going to be the right position. So this is a wedge right here. You can see that's about the right distance away there. And if I have, let's see here. So I think this is I think this is a 6-iron right here. So you can see it's going to be the same thing. Getting about a little bit of flex in the legs, bend over about 6 inches away. I mean, that's the same thing with the 6-iron. So the only difference would be if you had your longer clubs, like your 3-woods, driver, you just need a little bit more upright because it's a longer club. You can be a little bit more upright. So it's going to be a little bit more out in front of you. Instead of being 6 inches in front of you like that, it's going to be more like that. So that's going to be a good general rule to get you in the right position. But yeah, obviously, longer clubs, you're going to be a little bit further away from the ball. Also, okay, so David D, follow-up question says, also, can you address same question with the putter? So with the putter, essentially you just want to have your eyes straight down on the golf ball or a little bit inside of the golf ball. So if I got a putter right here. Let me angle this down a little bit more. All right, so basically we just want to have our eyes to where we're looking down at it. Our eyes are just straight down on the golf ball or a little bit inside of the golf ball. We don't want to be where our eyes are out here, because then we're going to be kind of looking, back this way and out toward the hole. If we're looking down like this, we have our eyes straight down, then we're just kind of looking right down at the ball. Or if it's a little bit inside, it's more like right here, then we're seeing everything in front of us. So that's the only thing with that. And the easiest way to kind of tell that, there's a couple ways you can do it. So number one is, the easiest way is just to have a mirror. So Eyeline Golf, they make, I wish I had one in here. I don't have one in here, but they make a mirror. It's got a little slot in it for the golf ball. And you put that in there. You put the golf ball in that little slot, and then you can look down and see exactly where your eyes are in relationship to the ball. There's a few other ways you can do it. You can take, a penny and put it on each side of the golf ball. Stick it under each side of the golf ball, and then you can tell, if you can see equal amounts of the penny, then you can easily tell if you're straight up over it or not. Or if you can see a little bit more of the penny on the inside, then you can see a little bit. That means you're a little bit to the inside. So all of that is completely fine, but that's basically where you want to be. All right. Gurchan says, definitely buy the Eyeline golf mirror, guys. Will transform your putting. Yep, I think I actually have a couple of them. I think it's definitely a great training aid for putting for sure. Daniel F says, when hitting a 3-wood off the tee, should I be hitting down like a fairway would or up like a driver? I would hit up on it like a driver. That's going to help you get more distance out of it. It's also going to help you get a little bit more launch on it as well, get a little bit more air underneath it. Hitting it off the ground, it's going to have a little bit more spin on it. If you're hitting down on it, it's going to have a little bit more spin on it. It's going to launch lower. It's just not going to go as far. Whereas if you hit it off a tee and you kind of launch it like you do with a driver, hit up on it a little bit, you'll get lower spin, higher launch, just like you do with the driver. And that's going to allow you to get longer distance with that. Now, if you're trying to hit something that's low and spinny, then sure, hit it down like you would off the turf. I would maybe only use a tee to tee it up very, very slightly. But if you're wanting to get that down there, as far as you can with your 3-wood, then no problem at all. I would definitely try hitting up on it. Tee it up a little bit higher, so about half the ball is above the crown of the club. Hit up on it a little bit, so that way you get that high launch and low spin. Gurchan says, heading into the wind, what would be a suggestion to control the ball? So what I recommend doing is, I think a lot of people, the biggest mistake that they make is they try to swing really, really hard. They're into the wind and they don't take enough club and they try to swing really, really hard. Well, when that happens, that adds a lot of spin. The more spin you have, the more effect that wind's going to have. So don't try to overswing or anything. That's the biggest thing. Obviously take some extra club, put that ball back in your stance, maybe just a little bit to keep it down a little bit lower. And, take, a lot of people, what I like to do a lot of times is I like to take a lot more club, and I like to take kind of a 3/4 swing so that I'm not putting as much speed into the golf ball. And that takes me with less loft and allows me to, keep it under the wind a little bit more. But the biggest thing I would say is don't try to swing super hard at it. Take a nice, normal, flowing swing. Your normal club head speed, just basically swing as if you had the wind behind you. I know it's hard to do because the wind's kind of pushing at you right in your face, and you feel like you really got to hit that ball hard to get it to go anywhere. But all that works against you because you're getting the too much spin on it, and that wind is just going to gobble that up if you have too much spin on it. All right. So here we go. Brian H says, as an All Access member, are there vids on the site that will help with adjusting for situations like when the ball is below or above your feet, uphill, downhill lie. Yes. So if you go to the vault section of the website, so I'll go ahead and go there with you so I wish I could do a screen share on this so I can kind of show you things on the website. But yeah, if you go to the instruction tab at the top of the screen and then hover your mouse over that, you'll see vault categories. So you want to click on that. And I believe the vault category is called special shots or something like that. Let me find it so I know the exact name of it. Okay, there we go. Yeah, special shots vault. If you click on that, there's going to be videos for uphill, downhill, side hill, into the wind type of, low penetrating wind shots. Clay talks about that. Ball below your feet, punch shot. So all kinds of your specialty shots, flop shot, tiger stinger, those kinds of shots. If you're interested in that, then yeah, absolutely go ahead and check out those. And it's got everything that you want. Gert-Jan, there's a great video in there for hitting into the wind. I think Clay pretty much says the same stuff that I just mentioned. But yeah, check that out if you wanted to find some videos on that. All right. Robert L. says, I've been working the step drill and I'm having trouble incorporating it into my full swing. Would you suggest starting with your weight favoring the right side to help with the shift to the left? No, I wouldn't, because you want to fully load up, and you also so they actually measured a lot of tour players, and they had them stand on this. It's called a swing catalyst. It's basically a large mat that's got a bunch of sensors in it that measures the pressure that you're putting into it. It's got, I don't know how many sensors in it, but I think it's a lot. It's like thousands of sensors. So it's got all these sensors in it, and it measures the pressure that you're putting into it with your feet. So they actually found that most tour players, they're a little bit more toward their lead side. They're about 55% on the lead side with the pressure, and about 45% with the trail side with the pressure. So the reason for that is because you got to get a load up, right? The weight's got to go this way, and then it's got to go that way. So if you are setting up here, you may not be getting fully loaded up. You're not getting all that going over this way and then getting it going over this way. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that. But you know what? Try it. See if that works. It's not a hard and fast rule that you can't set up with more weight over there. That was just the overall average that they saw with tour players, that it was a little bit more. I mean, 55-45 is still very balanced. But there was a little bit more on average on that lead side versus that trail side. But I would try different ways. Whatever gives you the best impact and allows you to get your weight to your lead side so that you can get that proper impact, that's what's right for you. So you just got to test things out and see what works best. But there's nothing wrong with starting out with weight on your trail side, as long as you're getting fully loaded up and you're getting that weight transfer to your lead side. So give it a try. See if it helps you. Try starting out with a lot of your weight. Try to feel like a lot of your weight's on your lead side, and try transferring it and then transferring back over and see how that helps with you. So like I said, everything, as far as golf is concerned, technique is concerned, the biggest things are the things that are talked about in the Top Speed Golf System. These are things that all tour players do. As far as the way that you set up weight distribution and address, if you measured all the tour players, 55-45 was the average. But I guarantee you there was a lot of variance in there. There's probably a lot of guys that had a lot of their weight on their trail side to start, and a lot of guys that had a lot of weight on their lead side to start. And they're all good players, right? They're all tour players. They're all playing golf for a living. So you can't say that any of those things are bad. But if you look at every single one of those players, they all had a stable fluid spine. They all are getting a full shoulder turn. They're all getting lag. They're all releasing that club out front. They're all doing those things. So It's really about, those are the universal truths, what I would say. But yeah, it's not, it's, do what gets you in the right impact position for you. All right. Paul H says, in high grass close to the green, do you use a sand wedge and hit the grass just in back of the ball? So yeah, if you have a ball that's kind of buried, yeah, I would definitely use a wedge to try and pop it out of there. If you have, it's in really tall, really thick grass and it's kind of buried next to the green, you're going to have to kind of come down steep on it. So basically, this is about the only time you want to come down steep into the golf ball. And the only reason why you want to do it is because if you take a normal swing, your normal chip like swing, and angle that down enough. There you go. If you take your normal chip like swing, where you're coming in from the inside, you're coming in nice and shallow and getting that nice brush off the turf. If you come in like that with grass that's super thick and the ball stuck down in there, that club's just never going to get to the golf ball. The grass is going to stop it before it gets there. So if you have a ball that's kind of buried down in the grass, you got to have to kind of put it back in your stance just a little bit, and you're going to have to try and pop it out. This is, it's a high degree of difficulty shot, and you can't really expect to get it real close. But if it's like really buried down in there, this is about the only time you want to do that. And you got to try and just use the loft of the club and kind of just pop it out of there. But yeah, that would be kind of the strategy that you would take for that kind of shot. All right. All right, Matthew, you said, I saw a video from one of your instructors saying to hinge the wrist at the start of the upswing. I thought y'all taught to extend to where the hands are at the waist, then start the hinge coming from parallel. What are your thoughts on the initial start of the swing? So this kind of goes back to the, what, Robert or whoever was talking about weight shift. These are things that you're going to see a lot of tour players. They do things a little bit different. They hinge the club a little bit earlier. They hinge it really late. It's not a universal truth. Everybody kind of does different things. You got to do what works best for you. So let me talk about what would be the advantages in this. There's pros and cons to both. So essentially, setting that wrist earlier, what that can do is that can help you basically get that wrist set in a nice set position to where you're in a nice set position at the top. So that's one thing that can help. But I do find that a lot of times with students, when they set that wrist earlier, they tend to not get a full shoulder turn. And the other thing is they also tend to cast the club a little bit. So, and the reason for that is that they've already, the momentum, they've already used a lot of it when they've hinged the wrist. So when you hinge that wrist earlier and then you get up here, you have a tendency, there's not as much momentum going up that way. So if you use a little less wrist hinge and you kind of feel like your arms and your hands and the club here are all moving back together, that helps you get a bigger shoulder. That gets the shoulders more involved early. So as you can see here, club parallel to the ground, I've hinged my wrist early. You can see my shoulders haven't moved very much at all. But now if I have very little wrist set and I go club parallel to the ground, look at how much more my shoulders have turned. So I've really got my shoulders involved in the swing earlier. And then the other thing is that momentum that I was talking about. So if I have a wider shoulder turn here, club's very little wrist set, I'm going to have more momentum going up here, but it's going to be a little bit harder to set my wrists up here. It's going to feel like I may not have as much control of the club. So test it out, find which way kind of works best for you. But if you're having trouble, getting a good shoulder turn, and if you're having trouble generating lag in the downswing, if you're setting those wrists really early in the swing, that may have a lot to do with it. You may want to work on getting a wider, less wrist set takeaway. And that's why we generally recommend it, because, or at least I do anyway, just because I think it's easier. But there's definitely, if you're setting those wrists early, you're getting a great shoulder turn, you're getting lag in the downswing, then absolutely, I wouldn't even mess with it. So you got to understand the benefits. Everything that you do with your technique, you change anything with your technique, it has to be to improve what's going on at impact. So a bigger shoulder turn and more lag help you to get obviously more speed at impact, and it also helps you with the release of the club. Because if you don't have lag, you're going to be releasing that club earlier. If you don't have enough shoulder turn, you might be releasing earlier too, because you're trying to rush that downswing a little bit. So it can help you with consistency as well. So I'd be definitely looking at those things in your swing, but you always want to think about, how is this going to help what's going on at impact? Because that's really the most important thing. Don't just change things in your swing because, you heard one instructor say wide takeaway and one instructor say, no wrist set or things like that. You just have to take that and understand, okay, what's going on with my impact? You want to work from impact out, not from some random piece of technique that you heard from somebody and just try to do that. You want to work from what's going on at impact. What's the number one thing? What's the number one issue for me that's going on at impact? So what is it? Is it chunking, topping, whatever it might be, and you got to take that piece and then look at your swing and understand, okay, what is going on in my swing that's causing me to do that? And then you fix that issue. And most of the time it comes down to the pieces of the top speed golf system. Most of the time it has to do with that. So, it could be your spine angles. It could be your shoulder turn. You're not getting enough club head speed. You're casting the club, which is causing you to release that club early. It's that can cause chunking, topping, thin shots, having control with the face, center of the face contact, those kinds of things. So I'd be looking at that and trying to fix those things. That's really what's going to help you improve your scores the most. All right. So Sam M says, can excessive forward shaft lean cause topping by shortening the radius of the swing, or is this compensated by lowering the body in the downswing? So yeah, that usually don't see that. Too much forward shaft lean usually does not cause topping of the ball, because we adapt, right? You're going to hit the golf ball, and a lot of times people will. That's something I haven't really ever seen that. I haven't seen someone get too much forward shaft lean that they're not, that they're topping the ball. That's not something that I usually see. I will say that I do see people who do get too much forward shaft lean. Sometimes it does happen, and the ball just flights too low, and they're having trouble holding greens and things like that. So that can happen. But typically, if you're average tour player takes about 30% of the loft off of the face. They're high swing speed players, so the ball is coming in higher, so they can hold greens a little bit. So taking 30% of the loft off the face maybe isn't for everybody, but it's going to get you the most distance for sure. So, some people may need to just take about 20% of the loft off the face if they're a lower swing speed player to help the ball get in the air a little bit more, albeit it won't go as far, but you'll be able to probably hold more greens. It just depends on the kind of golf you want to play. Each their own. But to answer your question, in theory, yes, what you're saying can happen, but it's just not something I ever see. Forward shaft lean issues with too much. It's usually just the ball's just not going high enough. The ball's just too low, basically. So, but that's pretty rare. All right, let me get a drink real quick. All right, so Michael D says, playing yesterday, I was hitting some great long straight drives and topping irons. My low handicap partner observed that although my setup was mainly good, my right shoulder was sometimes very low at address, and maybe I had too much spine angle tilt to the right. What can I do in my pre-shot routine to avoid this while out on the course? Well, first of all, what you do at address doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to happen at impact. It only matters what's happening at impact, but it can kind of set you up to be to make it a little bit more difficult to get in the right impact position. So if you're right-handed and your right shoulder is lower like this, when you're coming into impact, you might be going kind of like that. If you're topping the ball, so what may be happening is, you can kind of see my shoulders. So if you're kind of set up too far angled away, you're like this. You know, we say, 6 to 8 degrees angled away. This is probably, 20 degrees angled away. So 6 to 8 degrees angled away would look something like this. It's basically coming in, your belt buckle is basically 1 inch that way, and your torso is 1 inch that way. So that's kind of the feeling. You should feel like if there's a laser shooting out of the bottom of your spine, it should be a little bit left of center. It should be basically in between your foot and depending on how wide your stance is, but basically just a little bit left of center. So basically that's going to put you in a good spine tilt position. And really this position isn't as important as the one at impact, obviously, right? Because we just talked about that. Impact's the most valuable position. So if you're like this at address, and then you swing up that top and you stay very, very angled away, and then you come into impact like that, well, what's happening is your club may be bottoming out and then going up into the golf ball. So when you do that, when the club bottoms out before the golf ball, then goes up into the golf ball, that can result in some top shots. Now, with a driver, you may have been doing great with your driver because you want to hit up on your driver. But shots off the turf, you can't hit up on because the turf's in the way. So if you miss the turf, a lot of times you're hitting up on the ball and you miss the turf, you're going to hit the top of the golf ball and you're going to top it. Whereas if the ball is up on a tee with a driver, you can get away with that and hit some great drives, hit up on the ball. So what I would recommend doing is just at address, is just kind of feel like if there was a laser, your spine here, there was a laser shooting out of the bottom of your spine, just feel like it's a little bit ahead of center of your stance. So that's all I would feel like. I imagine you're kind of like this. And then up to the top, just try to remain stable and try to feel the same thing. Try to feel like your body's kind of staying behind a little bit. And then as you're coming into impact, don't do that, right? Get to your lead side and, split the center drill from the stable fluid spine section. So that's a drill where you got a club in the middle of your stance. And at address, you're behind that. At the top, you're behind that. And then as you come into impact, your nose is pretty much right on top of it or just a little bit behind it. And that's going to be the good position for you, because I'm guessing if you are hitting way up on the ball and getting those top shots, your head is probably way too far behind that. So that split the center drill from the stable fluid spine section would be a good one. You just got to look at your swing on camera too and see what's going on there. As far as stuff on the golf course, like I said, I would just try to set up where your spine is, just feel like there's a laser shooting out of the bottom of your spine and get that. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to fix it, because you may still do the same thing at impact that you're doing before, but it may get you in a better position. So I just give it a try, see if it does get you in a better position. But always understand that just because you do something at address doesn't mean that's going to fix what's happening at impact. It can make a difference, but it doesn't always. You may set up in all kinds of different ways and do the same exact thing at impact. Focus on what's happening at impact and try to fix that and work your way out to, whether it's something in, basically you're working your way out from the swing. So whatever's happening at impact, you want to fix that. If it's something that's maybe happening at the top of the swing, fix that. If it's something that's happening in your backswing, it's usually things that are less likely to be happening to cause you issues at impact are not going to be typically in the backswing and address. It's going to be what's happening from here to the golf ball is usually the things that need to be fixed. All right. So sorry, I got a little bit of the sniffles today. All right. So John F says, complete spine tilt and power sections. I almost have eliminated my slice, and now I'm hitting straight or line drives to the left. Feels like I'm rotating very much. I know I ain't, but that's the feeling. Should I more to lag or go to another section to stop hitting dead left? So basically, you mentioned that you sliced before. Well, pulling is basically slicing's cousin, essentially. It's a product of the same issue. The only difference is your club face. So pulling means that your club face is closed and you're swinging the club to the left. Slicing means your club face is open and you're swinging the club to the left. So you need to get this club working more out to the right to fix that. And I would recommend for that, I would go to our Never Slice Again section and take a look at that. And you want to look at your swing on camera. You mentioned you feel like you're rotating, but you're not sure if you're rotating. That kind of tells me that you're not really videoing your swing. Whenever you're going out and practicing, you got to use, it's one of the best training aids that you can use is filming your swing on camera. So you got to film your swing on camera, see what's happening, see what's going on, because the camera is not going to lie to you. What you're feeling may lie to you all the time. Feel is often not real. So you may feel like you're doing something, but it's definitely not what's happening. Happens all the time. Happens to everybody, tour players, everybody. So you just got to film your swing on camera, see what's going on there, so you know for sure what you're doing, and then you can make the changes to fix it. But what you're doing is you're swinging left. You need to get to where you're swinging more out to the right to fix that pull. So I'd be going to our Never Slice Again section. I know that it's a slice section and you're not slicing, but what that whole section, that whole course is about is getting you to swing more into out. That's the whole point of the course. And to get toward the end, to get you to where Clay talks about getting you to close the face, but initially it's going to be all to get you swinging out to the right. So that'd be my biggest recommendation to get rid of that pull. And to get to the courses, the easiest way is just to click the house icon toward the top of the screen there. That will take you to the home page. And then if you scroll down, you'll see all the courses, and then you can click on the Never Slice Again section to get started on that. All right, so Jeffrey T says, I'm having issues with some pain inside my knee, back leg, my thoughts. Any thoughts on how I could adjust to prevent the situation? I'm not really qualified to answer that. I'm not really sure what would be going on there. I would recommend talking to, like a medical professional or, maybe like a physical therapist about that. Maybe someone that's familiar with golf. I'm not sure if you know what TPI is, but TPI, Titleist Performance Institute, they train instructors. Basically, what TPI is they're the leaders in kind of how the body works and understanding the biomechanics of the swing and how the body works and, limitations and things like that. So what they do is they train anyone from golf instructors to fitness professionals to medical professionals on basically the golf swing and how the body works on the golf swing. So what I can do as a golf instructor is I can give you a screening and see if you have any physical limitations. But as far as fixing those physical limitations, I'm not qualified to do that. So that would mean you would need to go to a medical professional or something like that to get that fixed. So what I can do is I can say, okay, well, he can't move his shoulder this certain way. So now I have to teach him a golf swing, get him to swing the club with that kind of limitation or something like that. So that's basically what it boils down to. But unfortunately, I'm not really qualified to answer anything about, knee pain or something like that. I don't really know what could be causing that in the golf swing. If you're saying it's issues, pain inside my knee. So you didn't mention which knee it was, but there may be some torque going on that's, I would recommend kind of flaring your legs out a little bit and don't be afraid to pick the heels off the ground in the golf swing to allow that to happen. I have a limited internal rotation in my lead leg. So what I mean by that is, so when you are coming down in the downswing, my lead leg is internally rotated. So my lead leg is doing that, right? It's internally rotating. So I have a limitation there. If I put my foot out, I can only turn my leg that much. It's very, very little. So if I were to keep my foot square like that, I wouldn't be able to open my hips hardly at all without rolling my ankle over a bunch. And I actually just felt a lot of pinch there in my hip. So what I have to do is I got to set up with my foot very, very open. So that way I can get through the ball a little bit better. And I still have to kind of open up my ankle as I'm going through there. So sometimes I get a little bit of a sore ankle just because I'm doing that. So that might be what's going on with you. If you're kind of setting up like this, you might be putting a lot of torque on your knee. The same thing in the backswing, right? When you're rotating in your backswing, you are putting some stress on this knee as you're going back. So if you flare that out, that takes a little bit more stress out of it. And you also don't be afraid to straighten it out a little bit as you're going up to the top. Don't try to keep it flexed as you're going up to the top. I think that's been a lot of instruction in the past is you got to keep this trail leg really, really solid. Well, when you do that, that puts a lot of stress on the knee and things like that. So I would just free everything up. Don't try to keep anything super rigid or anything like that. And that should help quite a bit. But as far as pain and stuff like that, you're going to want to talk to a doctor, some sort of medical professional about that. Alan B says, does de-lofting the club with forward shaft link cause run through when hitting greens, or does forward shaft lane solid contact impart more backspin on the ball to improve the chance of holding a green? So, forward shaft lane, de-lofting the face will actually take spin off and make the ball go lower, but it makes you get more compression on the ball and more distance. So that's why you want to have it. You can have too much, but most people don't have nearly enough. Most people are flipping through impact, adding loft to the face. They struggle with distance. They struggle with contact because the force, which is your hands into the handle, is not leading the mass, which is the club head. You want to have that force leading the mass, because if you think about, like, if you're pulling a cart, right? And I think this is from one of Dave Pell's books. But basically, if you're pulling a cart, right, it's just going to follow in line with where you're going. It's going to be very, very stable. You're the force. You're pulling the cart. It's ahead of the cart, and the cart is the mass. Whereas if you have a cart and you're pushing it forward, so now the mass is leading the force, then that it's going to be very unstable. So that's part of the reason why you want to have that. The club's just not going to get through the turf as well. It's going to be interrupted by the turf if you're even able to hit the turf. Because if you're flipping, a lot of times, if you don't get forward shaft lean, you can't get that ball first contact. Typically, you're going to get, you have to pick it off the turf to get that. So that gives you very, very little margin for error. You're going to hit a lot of thin shots, maybe even top a lot of shots. You're probably going to chunk a lot of shots too, because you're going to hit that ground before the golf ball if you're coming into level with the turf. You've got to pick it off the turf to make that happen. So if you have any kind of lie that's kind of sitting down in the grass, or maybe you have really tightly mown fairways, or it's like a hard pan area, if you're a flipper of the club, you hate those lies because you can't hardly hit the ball. Whereas if you have a ball that's kind of sitting up on a tee on the grass, you can actually hit behind that ball a little bit. You can even hit up on it a little bit, and it'd still be a great shot. So as far as forward shaft lean is concerned, it can, if you get too much, and I discussed this a little bit earlier, if you get too much, absolutely, the ball can go too low. It won't have enough spin, and it'll go really far, which is good, but you won't have any spin. So you kind of want to have that happy medium. But I would imagine that you don't have too much forward shaft lean. I would look at where you're releasing the club, because basically, the straight line release, forward shaft lean is a product of releasing the club out in front. So if you're releasing that club about 45 degrees out in front, then you probably have the right amount of forward shaft lean. If you're releasing it like 60 degrees out in front, you might have too much forward shaft lean. You may be decompressing the ball, or compressing the ball too much. So if you look at typically what you'll see in tour players at impact, if you look from face on, it's important to have this right camera angle. So basically straight on, looking at me straight on here. So center my stance, center my belt buckle straight at the camera here. That's basically the camera angle that you want to have. And if you look at impact, and those hands are basically right in front of that trail thigh, right there. That's basically where you see most tour players, no matter what club they're hitting, whether it's the driver, wedge, whatever, you see the hands right there. Most people, you're going to see the hands are basically kind of right there, or even, straight up and down. If your hands are out in front of your thighs like this, you're kind of like that area, that might be too much forward shaftling. You're decompressing, you're compressing the ball too much. You're not putting enough loft on the face. You're going to have too much spin and things like that, depending on the kind of shot that you're hitting. But yeah, typically that may be too much, but that's pretty rare. You just typically don't see that. All right, so let me get a drink real quick. All right, so Dirk V says, hi, Q, in a bunker play, is there any setup to the ball running on low bunker to get the ball running on low bunker? And fairway bunker, is there a setup and way to hit it on for 100 yards or more? So to get the ball running more, you want to take more sand. Like if you want to hit a ball that kind of comes out low and basically kind of like a chunk and run, bunker shot is what they call it. You want to take more sand and you got to swing harder. It's actually it's a higher percentage kind of bunker shot. If you have a lot of green to work with, this is the kind of bunker shot that I recommend. But yeah, hit 6 inches, behind the golf ball and swing really, really hard. And that ball will come out lower and it'll have less spin on it, and it'll run for you. So I'd recommend go and practice that. Hopefully you have somewhere where you can kind of go practice that and get get better with it. That's the best thing I recommend with people. I get a lot of questions about bunker shots, and the impression that I get is that nobody practices their bunker shots. They just kind of go out to the course and wing it. The best bunker shot, it's not that hard. Bunker shots are really not that difficult. It just takes a little bit of practice. And once you get some practice with it and you get comfortable with it, there really isn't a bunker shot that is going to be a problem for you. The only time bunker shot is a terrible situation is if it fried egg on you. As long as you have a good lie in the bunker, which is usually what happens, the ball kind of just rolls around typically in there. As long as you have that, then it's a pretty straightforward kind of thing. And the other thing to understand is, it is a hazard. So, sometimes you just got to take your medicine and do what you can do to get out of it. But yeah, if you want to hit that low one, go somewhere and practice and see how swing hard and take more sand than you normally do and you're going to get that kind of result that you're looking for. As far as fairway bunker shots, you hit them just like a normal shot. The only thing I would say is just choke up on the club a little bit. That'll give you a little bit more control. So take some extra club, choke up on it. So let's say, 100 yards or more. Let's say it's a 125-yard shot, and you would normally be hitting your pitching wedge or something like that. Take your 9-iron and choke up on it a little bit, and then you hit the same kind of shot. You just got to maybe put the ball back in your stance a little bit to make sure, maybe more in the middle of your stance, just to make sure you're getting make it a little bit easier to get that ball first contact, because that's really, really essential for that shot. But yeah, you hit it just like a normal shot. The only difference is I would choke up on the club, give you a little bit more control, and then take a little extra club, maybe put the ball back in your stance just a little bit to give you a better chance of getting that ball first contact. All right, so Ty N says, can we be focused on and relax playing golf? I tend to be serious when I'm focused. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely be focused and relaxed playing golf. I think a lot of it depends on your personality. Some people are maybe a little bit more serious when they're playing versus more laid back and things like that. I think it just depends on your personality and what kind of game you're playing. Like when if I'm playing a competitive round, it's not necessarily with friends. Maybe it's like in a tournament or something like that. I haven't done it in a long time, but I remember, I prepared for the tournament because I wanted to play really, really well in it. And when I was playing, I talk to people, but generally I just kind of keep to myself, and I was really just focused on what I'm doing. But when I'm playing out with friends or something like that, half the time we're chit chatting or whatever, and that's what kind of helps you stay relaxed. So I think it just kind of depends on who you're playing with and what you're doing and your personality. But yeah, absolutely, you can be relaxed while you're playing golf. But yeah, if you're really, really focused on what you're doing, and if you're playing in a tournament round and it's not just like with buddies playing or something like that, yeah, if you're like myself, like I'm fairly serious. It doesn't mean like nobody can talk to me or anything. It just means like I'm pretty focused on what I'm doing. So if I was playing a competitive round, I had one of the guys that was playing with me or against me, with me and against me, talking my ear off the whole time, I would probably say, "Hey, I know, yeah, I know you're nice and everything, but I'm really trying to play some golf here or whatever." But that's only if it's like a real competitive round. If I was just out with buddies or something like that, I definitely wouldn't do that. So I think it just depends. But yeah, absolutely. Ty-in has a follow-up question. He says, "What is your suggestions on good thoughts when playing competition and the game is falling apart?" So I think you just have to think about as far as what's falling apart. You got to think about what's going on at Impact that's causing the issues. Usually it's a tendency. So maybe you're dumping everything to the right, or everything's hooking to the left, or you're chunking it. Think about what's going on at Impact and focus on that piece there. So let's say you're blocking everything to the right. So that means that your face is open. So I would just try to feel like you're getting that club face closed a little bit on the next one. You're closing that face down a little bit. So let's say on the next one, you pull it to the left a little bit, a little bit too much. You overdid it. So, okay, well, I'm on the right track. I just got to ease off of that just a little bit to get the next one to straighten out. So usually, it just takes a couple swings to get back into the groove. But yeah, I go play golf with people and they do the same thing. Maybe they're not playing very well and they hit the same shot, the same bad miss every single time, and they don't do anything about it. Don't be that person. Understand what's going on at Impact and try to fix that. So like I said, you're chunking, you keep chunking it, keep chunking it, keep chunking it. Try to hit the ball, try to hit the ground in front of the golf ball instead of behind the golf ball. Adjust your feeling to get the desired result that you want. And you can recover that much more easily. We have a course on the website, a program. It's a ball striking masterclass. Some of you may not have heard of it, but basically in this ball striking masterclass, you learn the most important things that are happening at Impact, and you learn how to adjust those things so that when you're out on the course, you can, you can adjust these things and you can save around when things are going wrong. The other thing is you don't want to have bad swing thoughts. You always want to think positive. So when you're out there, don't hit it in the water. You never want to say no or not. You want everything to be positive. You want to think, okay, I'm going to hit this ball with a low draw right in the center of the fairway or on the left side of the fairway or something like that. That's what you want to be thinking. So that'd be my best recommendation. But that ball striking masterclass, if you're listening to me and you're thinking, I don't know how to control or understand what's happening at Impact or any of those things, I'd highly recommend our ball striking masterclass. We're going to be offering that. I was told we were going to offer it in May, but it kind of got pushed back a little bit. So we're going to be offering it in June. I believe sometime in the beginning of June. So in the next week or so, be on the lookout in your email for an opportunity to sign up, enroll in our ball striking masterclass. Highly recommend it. And I think it'll be really, really good for a lot of people. All right. So Gordon F says, at address, should the club face be slightly open to the ball with irons, driver, or square to the ball? It doesn't really matter. It only matters what's happening at Impact. So setting up square, if setting up square allows you to hit it square at Impact, then that's how you should set up. If setting up open allows you to hit the ball square at Impact, then that's how you should set up. So in general, setting up square is it's more pleasing to the eye. It doesn't kind of make you kind of think, I got to close this face down at impact. That's what most people do. But if you setting up a little bit more open helps you hit the ball where you want it to go, then that's what you should do. There's no hard or fast rule on that. It's just if that's what helps you get the right impact, then that's what you should do. The pieces of the top speed golf, those are the things that are only universal truths, things that you really need to be doing. As far as club face, I mean, you could have the club face 90 degrees open at address if you wanted to, as long as it allowed you to hit the ball the way that you wanted to at impact. All right, so Dave F says, when starting the downswing with legs, seems like my upper body lags behind. Any thoughts? Sorry if this has been already asked this morning. No, that's completely fine. So I don't think we've had any question like that. So he mentioned, he's talking about how his lower body is getting out ahead of his upper body. So this can happen sometimes. It's often referred to as getting stuck. So you kind of get like this in this area. And when you get in that area, it typically causes you to flip to recover, because basically you've got to recover by doing that. So what I try to feel like is that your arms and your hands are staying more out in front of your body, because everything's just kind of getting behind you too much. And I would also maybe focus on this right elbow. So your trail elbow. I'm not sure if you're left-handed, but that trail elbow, feeling like that's coming in ahead. I feel like it's coming in toward your belt buckle here instead of kind of getting behind your body. So feel like it's coming in toward that belt buckle. That's going to help you to shallow out the club and keep that club more in front of you and keep your upper body in sync with your lower body. So that's why I would be looking at. There's also some great videos on the website. Search Stuck. If you use the search engine, I think there's 3 or 4 videos on the website about getting stuck. And those would be really good for you as well. But I find that most of the time, people who are getting stuck, if they kind of focus on getting that right elbow in toward their belt buckle on the start of the downswing, that really, really helps with getting them more in sync. But if you check out some videos on the website, some other videos on stuck, if you just search the word stuck in the upper right-hand corner, there's a search box there. Search the word stuck, and then you'll be able to find some good videos. All right. So Richard M says, when I try the tennis racket drill, the ball is starting left and then hooks, especially with longer clubs. Please help. So tennis racket drill. So if you're not familiar with the tennis racket drill, he's talking about 1.3 from the move. And I've been meaning to get a tennis racket in here. So I because this comes up almost every single day in the office hours. So basically the tennis racket drill, pretend I have a tennis racket here and the strings are pointed up toward the sky. So that's the shallowing of the club. And then the squaring of the face earlier is the strings kind of pointing up to the sky, and then the strings kind of pointing toward the camera. So that's what the tennis racket does. It's a really good visualization to get you to shallow out the club, get the club face squaring earlier. So he's saying that what's happening is he's getting basically a pull hook. So let's talk about what's going on with a hook. A hook, the ball just has to be, or the face just has to be closed to your club path. If the ball is starting left and then hooking left, that means that your face is too much closed, and that your path is just to the right of your face. So you could have a neutral swing path, have that face closed, and that ball's going to start to the left, and then it's going to turn to the left even more. Now, if you are hitting it off the toe, that's going to make it even worse. So I'd be looking at that. But essentially, what it looks like to me is that you're shutting that face down, but you're still flipping the club through. So what's happening here? So what does squaring up of the face early do? It gives you a square club face when you have forward shaft lean. So if that ball is starting left, so here, if I have the shaft straight up and down here, okay? So the shaft straight up and down in a square club face. This is impact position for a lot of people. If I added forward shaft lean to this and did not change my wrist angles, look what happens to the face. That face is wide open. So what do I got to do to square up that face? I got to turn that handle down. So that's the tennis racket drill. That's what I'm doing.
I'm turning that handle down at impact. And now I have forward shaft lean and I have a square club face. Now, if let's say that I have the face, the shaft straight up and down here, and I just turn the handle down. Well, now I don't have forward shaft lean. Well, I might have a little bit, but I have that club face is dead shut. So I imagine that's what's happening is you're just not getting forward shaft lean at impact. You're still flipping through, and when you do that, that club is just starting way to the left. So what I'd recommend doing is that 1.2 from the move, the previous lesson, go back to that one and work on turning that handle down and getting your body to impact with forward shaft lean. Really exaggerate it with forward shaft lean, body opening up. Look at yourself on camera. Is your body opening up to the ball? Are you really shallowing out the club? Because you may be shutting the club face down, but you're not shallowing out the club, which is causing you to flip. Because when you come down steep, if you're coming down steep like this, you've got to stand up and flip the club, or you're going to swing over the top, which can also cause you to hit that snap hook to the left. So that's what I'd be looking at. Are you shallowing out the club? Look at your swing on camera. Are you shallowing out the club, and are you closing the club face? That's the feeling. You're most likely you're flipping through impact, and so I would just look at that on camera and see what's going on there, and then try to get to where you're getting forward shaft lean at impact. And most likely that flipping is being caused by the not shallowing of the club coming down steep. But like I said, it's hard for me to know exactly what you're doing. I'm just throwing a bunch of stuff at you to look at on camera because I'm just kind of guessing because it could be several things that are going on. I do have unlimited swinger. I just signed up a couple people yesterday. So I'm not sure exactly if I have spots available or not. Let me check real quick. But our unlimited swing review program, where instructor can look at your swing and tell you exactly what you need to work on, which just with an app, V1 Golf app. Let me scroll down here. So yeah, Robin's got some spots available, and it looks like I still have a few spots available. So yeah, if you want to sign up for my unlimited swing review program, I could pick out exactly what's going on, be able to help you with that. But if not, all I can kind of tell you is what to look for on camera and to check that out. All right. So Alan B says, I play competition golf every week and have played with a lot of single-digit handicappers, but I've only seen a handful of players get backspin on their approach shots. I have never managed to achieve it. So what is so difficult about it? Tour Pro spin it back half the length of the green. So it really just depends. So first of all, the more loft you're using, and the more basically what gives you backspin is loft. What's considered spin loft. So spin loft is your difference between your angle of attack, which is the direction the club is going down into the ball or up into the ball. That's the difference of that in your dynamic loft, which is the loft that you're presenting to the golf ball at impact. Hopefully you're all seeing that. So so let's say my club is moving down 5 degrees, right? And then I'm de-lofting the face with a wedge. So let's say it's at 38 degrees. So what did I say? 5 and 38. So your spin loft, assuming face and path are neutral or 0, then your spin loft is going to be something like 43 degrees. You add speed to that, and then that controls how much spin you have. So tour players, the reason why they're able to get more spin is because they're able to use more loft and hit the ball, and they have more speed. That's why you see tour. If you don't swing as fast as a tour player, your potential for spin is going to be just a lot less than them. It's just the way that's all there is to it, because not only are they have more speed, which adds spin, but they're also using more loft. They're able to use more loft because they have more speed. So more loft gives them more spin. So for instance, let's say you have someone who hits their pitching wedge 120 yards, okay? And
they have a swing speed with that pitching wedge. Let's say it's a 70 miles per hour or something like that. Well, if you have a tour player who's hitting a 56-degree wedge, so that's could be anywhere from 8 to 10 more degrees of loft on the club, adding more spin. And then they're also hitting the ball probably a little bit harder than you are, in order to, maybe they're swinging at 80 or 80 miles per hour with that club. Well, that's just going to give them more spin. So the way to get spin is to have a higher spin loft and more club head speed. That's how you have spin. The other thing about tour players is you only really see them spin the ball very much if it's out of the fairway. And most fairways on tour, they're going to be tightly mowing. So what that means is that lower strikes on the face. If you have a lower strike on the face, that's also going to give you more spin due to gearing. So since they're hitting out of a tight kind of lie in the fairway, and they're hitting a wedge, they're hitting it with a lot of speed, and they're hitting it with a spin loft, with a lot of spin loft. Basically, what happens is that gear effect. If you hit it lower on the face, it's going to kind of crawl up the face, and that's going to add more spin. So all of those things are what you're going to see with tour players getting a lot of spin. If you play a course that does kind of has fluffy fairways where the ball sits up really, really nicely, and you're able to get the center of the face on the ball a lot, it's just not going to spin as much. But if you want to spin it more, I would maybe intentionally try to strike the ball lower on the face. Try to thin it a little bit. That will actually give you more spin. The other thing is, working on your speed is going to be able to get you more spin. And then the other thing is, working on that speed is going to allow you to use more loft, which is going to increase your spin loft and allow you to get more spin. So really, it just boils down to tour players have more club head speed than your average person. Your average golfer has about 94, 95 miles per hour. Your average amateur golfer. So that's really what it boils down to, is mostly speed, and they're using more loft with the speed, and also the lie, right? So let me. I'll go and finish up here. I'll go ahead and answer the last few questions, even though we're past the time. But I'll finish up with Brian H. will be the last couple questions. So Ty N says, what do different degrees of wedge bounce do? I watched a video talking about sectioning of wedge, different degrees and bounce, and I was lost. So we do have some videos on the website, I believe, on what the bounce is. But basically what the bounce does is it allows the club to interact with the turf more easily. So in the sand, you're opening, mainly it's for sand, and it's also for the turf as well. But for sand, if you open this face up, see this bounce, that's what this is right here. See how it's got this little flange on the bottom of the club? So this one has 8 degrees of bounce, which really isn't very much. This is a pretty low bounce wedge. So you can see if I have this club like this, straight up and down, you can see the leading edge is just a little bit up. There's not a lot of bounce on this wedge. I don't have the wedges I have now have a little bit more bounce on them, but they're in my bag, which is out in my truck. But if you look at this, you can see it's a little bit hard to see. Let me zoom in. So you can see how there's the leading edge is a little bit above the ground. So this allows the club to interact with the turf, to get through the turf more smoothly instead of digging down into it. So that's the main thing off the turf. But off of sand, when you open that up, you can see how, here, I'll open that up like that because that's more realistic. See, if I open that up, you can see how that exposes more of the bounce. And what that allows it to do, that allows it to kind of glide. It adds as kind of a rudder going through the sand so that the club doesn't stick through the sand. It glides underneath the ball and then allows the ball to come up out of the air. Whereas if you went into the sand like this with the leading edge going down like that, well, that club's just going to dig into the sand and the ball's not going to go anywhere. Not to mention it's not going to be real great on your wrists and things like that. So that's what the bounce is for. If you want to learn more about the bounce, search bounce on the website, and there's actually going to be some videos where they go into more detail about it. But that's just kind of a rundown of what it is.
So let me go ahead and finish up with Brian H. has 2 more questions here. He said, if I signed up for the video reviews and you notice a swing issue, do you develop drills to correct the swing issue? So don't necessarily develop drills, but I'm going to tell you what you need to do to fix it. So it may be, I'm going to tell you drills that you need to go. So I guess it kind of is developing a drill, but it's going to be mostly drills that it's going to be fairly easy to follow, stuff that you can just go out and do on the range and try to get it worked out. But yeah, so that's kind of what we do. The way that I do my swing reviews is essentially you send me your swing, and I send you a questionnaire to start out. And one of the biggest questions on there is I ask you, hey, what's going on at impact, or what's the number one issue with you on the golf course that's adding strokes to your game? So maybe the number one thing, you chunk 5 shots around or something like that, or you always leave things out to the right, or you have a huge slice or something like that. Whatever it is, that's what we're going to try to fix first and foremost. And that could involve, any sort of issues. We're going to try and fix that impact issue. Maybe it's a piece of the Top Speed Golf system that maybe it's speed and your shoulder turn is just like this. Well, we're going to work on getting you a bigger shoulder turn, and we're going to work on other things that get you some speed as well. I typically like to work on distance. If someone's, hits the ball pretty well and distance is an issue, that's one good thing that I like to work on with people and really see some good results doing that. So, and then your last question was, are weekly office hours videos recorded and available for review at a later time? So yes, we do archive these now. So if you go to the office hours, at the top of the screen, there's an office hours up there in the menu. If you hover your mouse over that, menu will expand. If you go to office hours highlights, you can go to the archived. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see where they're all archived. I usually, within a half hour after the office hours are complete, the newest one will be available on there. But all of the past ones, not all of the past ones, but from the last, I think we've been archiving them for a couple weeks now. So all the ones from the last couple weeks. So one thing I wanted to mention is Memorial Day is coming up. So I'm not sure if we'll have office hours on Monday. I imagine that we will, but I think we'll have a message on there on the office hours page if we're not having it on Monday. So everybody have a great weekend, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks.